A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. They came to Capernaum, and once inside the house, he began to ask them, "What were you arguing about along the way?" But they remained silent. They had been discussing among themselves on the way who was the greatest. Then he sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all and the servant of all." Taking a little child, he placed it in their midst, and putting his arms around it, he said to them, "Whoever receives one child such as this in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives not me, but the one who sent me." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
They were arguing. Who's more important? Who has more authority? Who's the best? And Jesus takes a little child, a little child, and he puts the little child in front of them arguing with each other, these big bad men. And Jesus says, pointing to the child, "This is the most important. Whoever receives a child such as this receives me." Now, to say that, especially in that place and time, really was very big news, because a child, a little child, would have been looked upon by everyone as the least important. Not only the least important, the most problematic. A child was understood to be nothing more than a bunch of need, a pile of need. Children couldn't do anything for themselves, and children certainly could not contribute to the good of society in the minds of the people of that time. And yet Jesus says the need and vulnerability, simplicity, lack of education, lack of physical strength is the first. When we hear those words, that should also move us to see the people that we consider in those categories to be much more important than we thought before. For instance, a child. Children are precious. Children, from the moment of conception to the moment of natural death, are of invaluable worth. Even that little baby within the womb that maybe the mother doesn't even know it's there is of invaluable, inestimable worth. The people who are right now huddled under a bridge in Del Rio, Texas, are of inestimable worth. The people who live on the streets of Miami, survive, I should say, instead of really live, are precious and beloved in the eyes of God and have something to contribute even to our lives. And when we care for them, when we watch out for them, when we do something for them, Jesus says we're doing it for him. We got to keep on remembering that. All of these folks that we kind of like push to the side, we don't want to know about them. We don't want to hear about them. They annoy us. They're problematic. When we see them, we think about them. All we could think of is my taxes are going to go up, or I'm going to be inconvenienced in some way, or this is going to take something out of my children's mouths. Jesus says, when you receive one such as this, needy, small, insignificant, not bringing much to the table, you're receiving me. You're receiving me. He put a little child in the midst of them. He says, this is the most important. In Isaiah, we hear a phrase, "And a little child shall lead them." A little child shall lead them. It's a good image to keep in mind. We think about it at Christmas time, but we should think about it at this time too. A little child shall lead them. That brings to mind something that is now happening in the midst of our church, which all of us here at the Cathedral of St. Mary, and every baptized Catholic in the entire world, is being invited to participate in. Perhaps you're not even aware of it yet, but I'm going to tell you now. Our Holy Father Pope Francis, the successor of Peter, has called the entire world to engage in something called a synod. A synod is something which has always existed in the life of the church, from the Greek word synod and odos. Synod means together. Odos means road or way or path. So synod means at the very basis of the etymology of the word, walking together, journeying together. Our Holy Father Francis likes to use that phrase, journeying together. So the Holy Father has convoked this synod for the whole world. It's not like an ecumenical council. It's something much more grassroots, if you will, even though it has an international and certainly a apostolic origin. But walking together, how do we walk together? How do we move together? How do we move forward in time and history, always conscious and rooted in what has come before? All of those other countless Christians from the beginning of the church, how have they walked together? How has the Spirit led them? And the Holy Father is calling us to listen and to pay attention and to walk together in a new way toward a common future, a greater intentionality in the person of Jesus Christ. This synod will officially begin in Rome in October and will continue all the way through for the next 2 years. But this great synod, which the Pope has called the whole church to, also will have a local, specifically St. Mary's Cathedral, Archdiocese of Miami, character to it as well. And the synod will begin here in the Archdiocese of Miami on October the 17th in a special Mass here at St. Mary's. And it will come to a conclusion on the Feast of Pentecost of the coming year at the Cathedral of St. Mary. And during this time, our Holy Father Francis will be asking us to pay attention to how right now we're walking together towards and with Jesus and with each other. The Holy Father is asking us, how can we be more attentive to the Spirit so that we can walk together better for the future with Jesus Christ and with each other? And a little child shall lead them. The reason why I mention that, and what's so beautiful in regard to the gospel for this Sunday, and this very, very timely moment when we're about to begin the diocesan phase of the International Synod, the Universal Synod, the logo from Rome, which presents the theme, communion, participation, and mission. The logo, very charming. And I want you to go on the internet and look at it tonight. Just type in Synod, Pope Francis, and you'll find it. Technically, it's the Synod on synodality, the walking together in regard to walking together. But the logo depicts a whole bunch of people. And you could look at them, they're just stylized versions of human people. But you can see by looking at it, there's different ages, there's different sizes, there's different men, there's women, there's some consecrated religious. And in the middle, kind of even towards the back, there's obviously a bishop, because he has his mitre on and he has his crozier. Now, ordinarily, the way we as Catholics think, it should be the walking together led by the bishop, the one who sits on that chair. But in the logo, which our Holy Father Pope Francis has presented to the world for this synod, this new kind of a synod, so to speak, the very first is a little child. And a little child shall lead them. And what's so important about that is this. Every single person that's here right now, every baptized Christian, even those who are not, are going to be invited here at St. Mary's Cathedral to participate in some concrete way to this synod. so that we can together as a parish community help the Archbishop who leads the whole Archdiocese of Miami to find out ways that right now we as individual Catholics can feel the promptings of the Holy Spirit, so that we as individual Catholics can be more attentive to how we can better journey together as Christians on our way to Jesus Christ in a fuller and deeper sense. And every single person, whether they're old, whether they're young, whether they sit on that chair, whether they sit in this chair, whether they're in the baby carriage, whether they are young, whether they are old, whether they're consecrated, whether they're married, whether they're single or widowed, every single one of us are together in this journey. And a little child, maybe one of them, two of them, a bunch of them, 422 of them at St. Mary's Cathedral School have just as much to contribute. And that contribution is just as valuable as the contribution of the pastor of this parish. The Lord today puts a little child in their midst, and he says, there I am, in vulnerability, in simplicity, and in smallness. And today our Holy Father, Pope Francis, puts before every single one of us here right now, and that child has just as much to contribute to the church as the one who sits on the chair of Peter. The role is different, but the value is the same. Jesus says, whoever receives the smallest amongst you receives me. Let us journey together to Jesus by participating as we learn more and more and hear more and more in the coming weeks in regard to the Synod on synodality, communion, participation, and mission.